Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do start, let us give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. We had Deku. We also had Ken and Mina. Now, Mina is still dealing with the loss of her grandfather, and she was also trying to focus on learning more about magic. It has been barely around a month since her grandfather has died, and Deku, he's been dealing with a few things. He's been having nightmares ever since he got back from space about Ghostfreak. Sometimes they twist and change. Sometimes they feel different and weird. And sometimes they feel vivid. Whatever is going on, it's strange. This alien is always involved. And that, it worried him. After he woke up from a nightmare, he decided to turn into Ghostfreak to try and face his fears. And while that was happening, there also was Ken. Ken, he knows he can't really hide it anymore. He already needs to talk to Mina's family, and after revealing that Mark was murdered in the quote-unquote alien invasion, it was hard for her mother to deal with a lot of things. Mina's family, they're going through a difficult time right now. And Ken, he decided to bring his daughter in on the secret he's kept from her whole life. Aliens exist, and her dad is basically a space cop. So yeah, there's that. Now, it has not been very easy for him to keep these two lives separate, and the fact that he basically has to bring them together for the sake of his grandson, it does somewhat worry him. He doesn't know how Izuku's gonna react to his mother. He doesn't know how anything's gonna happen. All he knows is the boy has not been doing well mentally, and he needs a support system. And after he made claims about Ghostfreak taking over and leaving the Omnitrix this morning whenever they arrived, Ken, that actually sparked a lot more worry. Many of the plumbers here, they think that Izuku is just under high amounts of stress. However, some of them, they don't believe Izuku at all. Because how could an alien DNA sample become sentient and escape the Omnitrix? There's a lot of weird shit in the universe, but even that is out there, especially for one of the most advanced pieces of technology ever created. Now, with that being said, Deku, he was brought to a room, and he was sat down. And while Inko was still trying to process some of the information she was being given, still trying to understand and believe some of it, it was difficult. I mean, yeah, haha, her dad's a space cop. He made the joke on the way here. But I mean, the more and more he kept talking, the more she realized it wasn't a joke. And there was even where they pulled into the secret facility. And that kind of made Inko realize a few things. It wasn't a joke, first off. Second off, if Izuku knows about all of this, what exactly has he been doing? And third, he mentioned something called the Omnitrix that was coming to Earth. So, what exactly is the Omnitrix? Now, Deku, he does want to sit there in the room. And whenever Ken and his mother come walking in, Inko is quite alarmed. Because Izuku, he definitely looks a little freaked out. Something's got him jumpy. And Ken himself, he actually does gotta turn to the plumber next to him and inform them about what to do. And the plumber, they go to leave. As right now, Deku, he's to look up and see both his mom and his grandfather. And the two, they do want to talk to him. Now, Inko was still very surprised. And she was also very concerned. Especially because the fact that her son has this watch, it's kind of alarming. And there also was the fact that Deku, he immediately threw her to the side and immediately started talking to his grandfather about Ghostfreak. And Ken, he tried to at least calm Izuku down, tell him about what he might have actually seen. And he tried to at least tell Izuku that he might need to get help mentally. And Deku, he tried to be very adamant. He knows what he saw. He knows a lot. He just needs to listen to him for a minute. And Ken sadly did not want to do so. His grandson has been through a lot of trauma. He knows that. However, he's been trying to just keep Izuku going forwards and hoping that Izuku he can just handle it. He's been treating Izuku like a fellow plumber, not like a child. And that was his mistake. Now, with that being said, Deku does keep talking about it. And fact is, the two don't believe him. And Deku, he is told a lot more about it. And there actually is later. Inko was already annoyed hearing about the Omnitrix existence, and the fact that it doesn't come off. And Deku, he was just jumpy, on high alert, and he was confined to his quarters. Now, Deku, he currently does sit there. Currently, him looking on a few things on his laptop and trying to look through the plumber database. He wants to know more about Ghostfreaks species, but not much is known. And that's bad. But if Ghostfreak is actually outside of the watch, then Deku looking down at the watch, thinking for a second. If he escaped, then his DNA is not in here. Which means he's not an option. Now, Deku is going to press the button. Him moving the dial and beginning to try and search for Ghostfreak. And of the aliens he does have, he doesn't find him. And that does help Deku ground himself a bit. The idea that he's not an option tells him that he actually escaped. And if he does confront his grandfather with that information, it could help. It could say something. And there currently is Ghostfreak. Ghostfreak has a plan. The harsh daylight of the human sun. It can kill him. It can burn him alive. And it is dangerous to his species. However, he can possess a body, go out in the day that way, and do things that way as well. But what if he decided to take on the perfect form? He wants to control Izuku and plunge this world into a proper darkness. And that does mean quite a lot. Having the ability of the Omnitrix on his side could help him. Having a vessel he could walk in the day with would help him as well. But he does also want to take over this world, make it a proper kingdom, a place he can rule. It is an idea. Infect this world in blood of the sky, and then move on to the next. Make an empire for himself. That is what he does see. A world of his own, in his own very design. And Ghostfreak, he loves the idea. Now, he currently is moving through the base and trying to stay in the dark, or at least in the shadows, where people can't really see him. And Deku, he does actually sit there, as someone does come walking up to the door, and they did knock onto it. And Deku, he does a turn, telling them if they can come in. The door sliding open, as Ken is going to walk in. Deku going to actually turn his head, as the man is going to walk over and sit down. Him bringing up a plate of food. And Deku, he does get to turn his head staring down at it. Thanks, Grandpa. Listen, kiddo. There's a lot going on right now, and I need to talk to you about a few things. You do? Yeah. Listen, I forget how thick my skin is sometimes. Alright? There's that. I wasn't thinking of you as a kid. I tried not to. I don't try to underestimate you, Izuku. I'm proud of what you've done so far. Taking down Vilgax and saving the world from him. And trying to take down the other threats that pop up. Thanks, Grandpa. I'm proud of you, kiddo, but there's one thing that heroes don't talk about that I think you and I should. And it's something that a lot of plumbers have difficulty doing too. What is that? Trying to separate the professional from the person. What do you mean? Izuku. Professionals, heroes, and people alike. Some of them have problems that they deal with in their personal lives that they try not to keep in their career. Some of them deal with problems in their career they try not to keep in their personal lives. It's like that. Everything that happened to me as a plumber, I try not to let it affect me as your grandfather, as Inko's father. And I forget that you're new to this. You have a lot of responsibility. That's a lot for a kid. I know, Grandpa. But Ghostfreak is not real Izuku. He's not. He's still in there. Him bringing his hand up and tapping onto the Omnitrix. And Deku's a turn, pressing the button and beginning to go through the options. As Reno Ken does a stare down at Deku confused. And Deku, he does tell him he's not. And Ken does a stare down, seeing the options, and none of them are Ghostfreak. Now, Ken does stare down at that a little surprised. Huh? What is it? That's weird. Grandpa, I told you, he's not in the Omnitrix. He's out. He's gonna hurt people. I don't know. But he doesn't like sunlight. Izuku, listen. Just calm down. Okay, that is a bit weird. I mean, Xylene did give me some information on that, so it's possible you got locked out of Ghostfreak. Locked out? Grandpa, why would I be locked out of Ghostfreak? He's one of the original 10. Okay, Izuku, I understand that. But at the same time, the Omnitrix may reset. Grandpa, it didn't reset. The code Xylene gave me more access to other DNA samples. It didn't reset the Omnitrix. Okay. Reno Ken gonna turn, bringing his hand up on Deku's shoulder, trying to reassure his grandson. How about for right now, he doesn't try to focus on this idea of his? How about he catches up on his sleep and gets some rest? Then he can spend time with his mom and him, and they can all go out and do something normal for a change. And Deku has just stared at his grandfather before he finally said to tell him one thing. No, listen to him. He knows Ghostfreak is real because he saw him with his own eyes. They met each other. He mutated or changed or something, and he looked horrifying. It's not just that. He didn't defeat Vilgax. Vilgax is alive. He's going to see him by the end of the summer because he spoke to his future self. And Ken does stare at Deku, because what he just said sounded a little crazy. He mentioned before he met his future self for his birthday, but that's a little out there. But the imagination of a child, a way to cope? Yeah. No, it is very weird that Ghostfreak isn't inside the watch. But, he doesn't want to freak Izuku out more. Okay. So, he's gonna just need to investigate that a bit. If I take a look around, look at security footage and see what's going on there. See if anything may have happened. Alright, that is an option. Though, he should probably help Izuku get to sleep. The boy looks exhausted. Now, Ken does have an idea. And he does get to tell Izuku. He's gonna go get him some water. And right now, he wants Izuku just to stay calm and relaxed. Listen, they can talk about this more, but making claims that Vilgax is alive isn't right. And Deku's to tell his grandfather, Vilgax is alive. He knows he survived the explosion. Now, Ken is gonna freeze, his back currently to Izuku as he does a turn back and gives his grandson a smile, telling about how they took care of Vilgax. And when I turn back around, his face is gonna drop, him walking out of the room. Now, Ken does come back later whistling for Izuku. A glass of water that also does have something to help Izuku fall asleep. Since the boy, he's a little hysterical, and getting him properly checked out by a therapist might have to be an option. And Mark, he doesn't like having to do this, but if it does help Izuku get some proper rest and calm down, maybe it can give him a moment of clarity later. Maybe it can help him focus more. I mean, he won't say things like this if he's calm. At least, that's the hope. Now, Deku, after he's gonna eat, he does also drink some of the water. And eventually he does start to feel a little tired. Him gonna lay down and fall asleep. Now, Ken currently does want to investigate it, and it does seem a bit strange. However, there actually is Ghostfreak. Ghostfreak, he does get to wait as well. Inko's still trying to understand a lot and talk to her dad. And the entire base, it has a few people inside of it. Currently including the new additional plumbers and Inko and Ken, along with Deku and Mina, there currently is around, I want to say, 20 people on the base. And that does mean quite a bit. Now, there actually was later at night. Ken himself was still trying to look into a few things. Follow some of the footage and data that he saw recorded about Izuku. He remembers seeing Izuku in a hallway. He turned into Ghostfreak and then looked down at his hands. And then he just looked around, before he suddenly just took off flying in one direction. But there's a look of surprise in that eye of Ghostfreaks, and it does kind of surprise him. He may not have a proper face, but this thing, it expressed a lot. Its eye went wide whenever it went flying off, almost like it didn't mean to do that. And Deku, he screamed out. Now, Ken struggles to watch the footage a bit. However, he does leave the security room whenever he does decide he's seen enough. Now, currently there actually is down at the power core for the base. Now, the man is currently committing daily maintenance of the power core, taking measurements and readings to make sure this thing is stable. And he also is checking up on a few more things. And right now, everything seems to be perfectly okay. This is a very delicate piece of alien technology that has been able to stay on Earth, since it is easier to give Earth older alien tech because it is still far more advanced than anything on this planet. Now, currently the man, he is typing away a few more things. Power is flowing steadily and smoothly throughout the building, and everything does seem to be alright. However, right now the man, as he is typing away, he actually feels something strange. Before Ghostfreak does actually fly up and into his back. Currently the man going to actually turn and look down at the consoles. Him staring at it as he does do a few things. Ghostfreak thrives in the darkness. And he does want a lot to happen. And right now, he has ideas. Things he does want to do. And currently, the man does do one thing. He does get to turn off the power to the base, making sure that nobody can see a thing. And currently there actually is also at the base. Power just started to shut down. And people, they're kind of confused and alarmed, as they try to use their communications that aren't wired to try and talk about what's happening. And the person down at the core, they haven't responded back. They're not talking about why there's an unregulated shutdown. Yes, the emergency power kicked in, but that should only last them, well, an hour or two. And that's going to be difficult. I mean, the solar array, it has been charging, but without direct sunlight, this place is going to be down for a while. So if there is a problem down there, it's definitely not going to be good. Now, currently there actually is Mina. Mina was doing a few things. She heard about Izuku's freakouts, and she wanted to talk to her friend, but he was sleeping earlier. And it did have her concerned. She was trying to learn more and more about this magical stuff. And she even met Izuku's mom. She's met her before, but she seemed a little concerned about a few things. And there even was Ken. Ken began his own investigation of this ghost freak escape. And so far, he couldn't find anything. However, it's late at night and emergency power cut on after the main power supply cut off. So there's that. And currently, let's cut back down to the power core, where Ghost Freak does get to leave the man. And right now the man's body does begin to shift and change. It turning into another version of Ghost Freak. And as it turn, staring at its master. As right as a scare, does it give it an order. Infect and consume. Infect everybody here. But leave the boy for him. The boy is his. His prize is the Omnitrix. His prize is something that he can obtain on his own. Because it is revenge. Now, currently the minion doesn't understand. And the plumbers, they try and go through their own security routines. Someone is sent down to the power core. And, well, right now they think they might have an emergency on their hands. They put the base on alert. Because one person was already supposed to be down there and they didn't check back in. And then they sent somebody else down there and they didn't check back in. They were talking 1 minute and then radio silent the next. And that, it didn't seem good. And Ken himself, he was worried. And he decided to do one thing. Izuku, he talked about Ghost Freak like he was real. And treating him like a professional plumber, it's a good idea. If Ghost Freak is real, then he might need something. And that means quite a bit. And there actually is Izuku. Izuku, he woke up whenever the lights were on. And whenever he came out of his room, he was looking around to understand what was happening. However, the base was talking about it. The alarms were still going off and talking about how they're all on alert because there might be an intruder. And Deku, he does understand. I'm currently going to look around as Mina just comes walking out of her room. And Deku does turn his head. Her currently going to turn and stare at him, as they don't really know what to do. And the two, they do actually go to use their plumber badges to try and understand what's happening. And Ken himself does try to tell the two about what to do. Shelter in place and stay where they are. Because this, it could be an actual problem. Now, with that being said, Ghost Freak turned out the lights. And there's not much time before the other lights cut out and leave this place in total darkness. And the man, or I'm sorry, the creature of the dark, it wants something. And it shall get it by any means necessary. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.